Good Tuesday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls. We have a lot to cover again today, and you guessed it. We're going to be starting along with wildfire smoke and the poor air quality that we've been dealing with again today, just like what we've been seeing in our region for the last several days. But it's not just us. All across the upper Midwest, over toward the Northeast, and a good portion of the southwestern U.S. now dealing with quite a bit of wildfire smoke as well. There are several ongoing, very large wildfires that we're going to tell you about. But then when it comes to the air quality, we're always talking about AQI. What is it? What does it stand for? What does it mean? And when? What's the number and the range that we have to start really taking things seriously? I'm going to break down all of that as well. And then also, we're talking about the tropics because things are really beginning to heat up, especially in the Atlantic, which is very typical for this time of the year. So typically whenever you're talking about hurricane season, yes, it begins early, a few months ago. However, I think the peak of that season, that's really not until August, September, and into October. So now that we're getting into August, it's looking like things are really beginning to take shape, especially in the Atlantic. So we have a lot to tell you about there as well. First and foremost, let's start with our weather alerts. All the orange that you see here across the upper Midwest over into the Northeast, these are all air quality alerts. So it's the same weather story we've been talking about since over the weekend. We have the Canadian wildfires that have been ongoing for, months now. And we have hundreds of thousands of acres. And actually, Dominic, what did you say? How many acres had burned in Canada? We have our intern right here that I'm chatting with. 16.5 million acres in Canada have actually been burning. So when you think about all of that and all of that smoke going up into the air, then it's not surprising that when the weather conditions are just right based on the placement of those highs and those low pressure systems that are driving this smoke down into the Great Lakes region in the upper Midwest, that's why we're dealing with that, and it's not going to change until the weather pattern begins to change and the placement of those highs and lows. So all locations that you see here are highlighted in yellows, the oranges, the reds. These are all poor air quality that we have to be concerned about. If we zoom things way in, most of our area here in the Chicagoland region is in that moderate category, which typically whenever you're in the moderate category, it suggests that it's still considered to be acceptable for most individuals. But for those of you that are unusually sensitive to air pollution, you're probably still noticing some effects, especially since this has been compounded over multiple days. So we've had this long exposure of poor air quality. And then for those of you in Northwest Indiana and then following the lakefront all the way up into the eastern half of Lake County up toward the Wisconsin border there, this orange shading, this is considered to be unhealthy for sensitive groups. So unfortunately, it's a very similar scene to what we had yesterday in our air quality alert that was issued earlier today for the majority of the area that's now remaining in effect for McHenry, Lake County, Kane, DuPage, Cook, down toward Kendall and Grundy and Will, and then most of Northwest Indiana, with the exception being LaPorte County. This remains in effect through midnight tomorrow night. So Wednesday night at midnight is when we should finally start to see this expiring. But even after that, I really wouldn't be surprised if we still have some haze in the atmosphere. So we're still going to be looking out for, what the AQI number is going to be, the index, and where we're at later on this week. So let's talk a little bit about that. So there's essentially 6 categories that we're talking about when we're discussing AQI, the air quality index. So anything around 50 or less, that means that it's considered to be good. If that number is between 51 and 100, it's moderate, which a lot of the Chicagoland area is right now. But we've also been in this category, the orange category, for quite some time. That's between 101 and 150. So what you can take away from this is anytime your AQI, if you open up your phone app and you see that you have an air quality alert and it's showing you an AQI number, if that number is at or below 100, it's considered to be acceptable for most individuals. But once you're rising above that 100 mark, that's when it's considered to be unhealthy, and then it can actually become very unhealthy at times. Fortunately, we haven't gotten to be that bad here in our region. So some of the things that go into the AQI, it's not just wildfire smoke, which actually falls under this particle pollution. There are multiple things that go into what that AQI number is going to be. And today we had that air quality alert that was actually sent out earlier in the day, and it wasn't just for particle pollution, it was also for ground level ozone, and that's something that we really haven't been dealing with over the last couple of days. So today it was a combination of things. Futurecast taking us throughout the next couple of hours or so. Tonight, you'll notice that the smoke overhead, the denser stuff, it actually begins to kind of spread apart and move away from the region. However, we're still going to have some of these areas of these denser plumes of smoke channeling into the region at times through the day tomorrow as well. So that's why that air quality alert is going to remain in effect until midnight tomorrow night. So let's talk a little bit about the fires. All of the smoke that we've been dealing with here locally in the upper Midwest, the Northeast, that's been coming from Canada. But we actually have some very, very large fires and some that have developed very quickly across the southwestern U.S. In California, just east of Santa Maria here, we have the Gifford fire. I started telling you about this yesterday and the day before. And yesterday, 24 hours ago, when we were talking about this fire, it was at 65,000 acres had burned. Now it's up to 82,567, which if you figure out the math, that comes out to be about 129 square miles has been on fire here with the Gifford fire. So this one, it grew very, very rapidly. Fortunately, this percentage that it's contained is beginning to go up. Yesterday, it was around 5% contained. Now it's at about 7% contained. So we're moving in the right direction, but nonetheless, it's a huge ongoing fire in the mountainous region of California. So let's jump down to the tropics now, because there is a lot to tell you about. We have ongoing activity in the Atlantic, also in the Pacific, and in the Pacific, there's actually a storm that's going to be passing just north of Hawaii. I'm going to show you that one in just a moment. But first, let's talk about Tropical Storm Dexter. So this is centered several hundred miles east of the East Coast. It has maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. Wind gusts are up to about 50 miles per hour. But you notice the direction. It's moving northeasterly at about 13 miles per hour. So this storm is moving away from the U.S. That's wonderful news for us, but you'll notice that it's actually maintaining its strength. So right now this is a tropical storm, and it's likely going to remain a tropical storm all the way until the end of this week. Notice by Friday, it's expected to still have winds of right around 50 miles per hour. So it's going to maintain its strength, but fortunately, it's not really going to be our problem here in the U.S. Now, bouncing things to the south just a little bit. Do you see this area of orange that's just off of the southeast coast here? And we have a 40% here. So this is a product that comes out from the National Hurricane Center. And essentially what this is telling us is that this is an area that we need to watch. There is a 40% probability that this could be developing into a tropical depression sometime late this week or this weekend. There's already ongoing showers and thunderstorms, so it's very disorganized at the moment. But over time, we could potentially be seeing a tropical depression developing, and there's still a lot of question marks on whether or not this actually develops into a named storm or a tropical storm. And if it does, and if it develops faster than this area, farther off toward the east and the southeast, then that could potentially become Tropical Storm Erin. So it's going to be something to watch here. But this activity, notice again, this is just east-southeast of us, out in the center of the Atlantic, has a 50% chance of developing into a tropical depression. So there's a couple areas that we're going to be watching very closely through this week into this upcoming weekend to see if those do indeed form into tropical storms, if not hurricanes. So let's bounce things over to the Pacific now. So we just covered the Atlantic. Now we're heading over to the Eastern Pacific, and what you're looking at here, this is Tropical Storm Henriette. So we have maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour, wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour, and it's moving west-northwesterly. So think about it. What is west-northwest of the California coast? Well, you guessed it, heading out toward Hawaii. So this is going to be moving to the northwest, maintaining strength, likely as a tropical storm, going through the rest of this week and then into this upcoming weekend. But you'll notice here, it never turns into a hurricane. So that's something that we can say is a very good thing, because if this forecast holds, it's likely going to be passing north of Hawaii. It's still going to bring high surf. It's still going to be bringing likely quite a bit of precipitation along with it, but the worst of the storm is expected to stay farther off toward the north. So we can be happy about that. And then there's likely going to be another system here developing in just the next couple of days. This is the 2-day outlook from the National Hurricane Center. This entire area off the southern coast of Mexico here is likely going to develop into a tropical depression in the next day or so. So that could potentially become our next named storm in the Eastern Pacific. All right, right after this short break, I am going to tell you about the heat that is coming our way. We have another heat wave that's heading towards Chicago. Those details coming up. Welcome back. So we've been talking about the heat and how it is coming back. We're not done with summer just yet, although meteorological fall does begin the 1st of September. We're still a few weeks off, so summer's going to squeeze out a few more 90s for us too. Take a look at the next 5 days around here. So today we are very comfortable. We are in the lower 80s. That's really seasonable. Average high for this time of the year is 84 degrees. But tomorrow we're back up to the upper 80s. And then here locally we are in the 90s Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And also what you're going to notice is that the humidity, that's going to be building as well. So the last couple of days, it's been fairly comfortable. We've had dew point temperatures that have been in the 50s, the low 60s, and whenever dew points are that low, you really don't notice the humidity all that much. But then going into the later half of this week, into this upcoming weekend, we're going to see those dew points likely rising well through the 60s, if not into the low 70s, which is going to make a huge difference when it comes to just how hot it feels to us. So those low to mid 90s by Friday and Saturday very well could be feeling like 100 degrees. And the heat, it's not really going anywhere anytime soon. This is your temperature outlook from Monday through Friday of next week, taking us through the 15th of August, and we're still strongly favored to see above average conditions. And then that lingers for a few days even after that. This map takes us out to August 19th. And again, still strongly favored to see those above normal temperatures sticking around. For tonight, it's very comfortable, 68 degrees, fairly low humidity, but the smoky skies, those are going to continue tonight and then likely into your day tomorrow as well. So we do still have that air quality alert remaining in effect through midnight tomorrow night, and your temperatures tomorrow looking fantastic, especially closer to the lakefront, a little more comfortable. We're going to be in the lower 80s, but farther inland, that's where we're going to find mid to upper 80s expected. And the dew point temps, those are going to start to rise just a little bit more. So I think you're going to at least notice the humidity a little bit more tomorrow than what we had today. Your 3-day forecast tomorrow, 88 degrees again, 90 expected on Thursday. Skies are going to be partly cloudy, 93 degrees on Friday. And for a lot of you that are local, heading out to the Bud Billiken Parade on Saturday, it's going to be a hot one. Pack your waters, your Gatorade, sports drinks to try to keep yourself hydrated. You're certainly going to need it if you have any sort of outdoor activity that you're doing on Saturday with those heat index values pretty close to 100. All right, stick around. We will have more updates and, of course, the news coming up on the news at 9 p.m. We'll see you then.